What really made Gladiator?
It's like a total first world problem.
The story they came up with, it was brilliant.
I said, listen, mate, we don't have a script that...
But people had extremely passionate points of view.
It's the dumbest possible way to make a film.
It might seem perfectly ordinary.
I read the script, I was like...
Sets and everything was so spectacular.
Gladiator may be considered as one of the best movies of the 21st century. And with the earliest reviews of Gladiator 2 rather living up to expectations, it is no surprise that Gladiator developed an impressive reputation. But developing these two movies were more like a combination of Gromit laying down the railway and Plainview falling down the ladder. Let's dive into Gladiator's story.
I have never obstructed justice.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
It is 1972. A man by the name of David Franzoni is riding on his motorcycle through Eastern Europe. He sees beautiful countrysides, unique people, but also a notable amount of arenas. Once he arrives in the country of Turkey, he stops, looks over his right shoulder and sees another giant arena. As he moved on, leaving Europe and arriving in the Middle East, his next location turns out to be the country of Iraq. More specifically, the capital Baghdad. He looks to the left and finds a place to buy a book named Those About to Die by Daniel P. Mannix.
The thing that was great about Mannix's book was that it identified the ancient games with sort of modern entertainment games. And I never forgot about it. I always thought, gee, make a great movie someday.
But despite David laying the basic foundations, a breakthrough didn't occur until he wrote,
The Queen again and again refers to our incompetent courts.
This movie turned out to be pretty essential for a Gladiator movie.
I wanted to see Stephen, and Stephen had heard that I was going to come in and pitch a Gladiator piece. So it was Stephen and Walter Parks, and Stephen goes, so David, I understand you want to do a movie about a gladiator. And I go, yeah, in ancient Rome, yeah. In the Colosseum in ancient Rome, yes. Okay, and that was it.
So two DreamWorks producers, Walter F. Parks and Douglas Wick, got intrigued by David's story, and they eventually hired him to write Gladiator. Then Walter contacted Ridley Scott.
There's a tiny handful of directors who can deal with enormous technical problems, but not be overwhelmed by them.
Yet apparently, Ridley was shown this painting, to which he instantly replied, yes. But the first problem started to rear its ugly heads. Ridley didn't like David's script. That's why John Logan was hired to mainly rewrite the first act. 3 months before principal photography began, Gladiator was still without a completed script. But there was hope. David and John came out with a second draft of the script. Except by now, this guy was hired.
Please welcome Russell Crowe, everybody!
In the first one. And I went up to him, what's going on, you know? And he goes, you, Gladiator, you are going on.
Russell read the second version of the script and called it substantially underdone. And yet, time was slowly passing by, with everything arranged from the actors to the props to the filming locations. But when January 1999 arrived, principal photography was about to go ahead without a completed script.
We had 21 pages when we started shooting.
21.
Yeah, your average script is about 110. You know, it's the dumbest possible way to make a film. The dumbest possible way.
Many of the scenes were improvised. The script was constantly changing. From every corner of the crew, new ideas were brought in.
So when we arrived in Morocco, we'd already run out of the first 21 pages that we had.
And Russell still didn't like much of the script. Russell even considered just quitting the production.
So we would go, oh, I like that line. The rest of that's crap. Oh, this situation's good. Like, we'll drag that in here. Oh, that's a good thing. Oh, that shouldn't be said by him. That should be said by him. And we were just sort of putting it together. But it's not actually that bad a way to do it, you know.
But the worst part was yet to come. In May 1999, one of the actors had a break between shooting. He decided to get into a pub. When sitting in the pub, the actor encountered a group of British Navy sailors. The actor dared them to a drinking contest. During one of the matches, the actor fell ill and collapsed. His friends tried to help him and was rushed to the hospital. But while the ambulance was on its way, the actor, Oliver Reed, died at the age of 61 due to a heart attack. A horrible tragedy in Gladiator's final month of principal photography.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And the Oscar goes to Gladiator.
And the Oscar goes to Gladiator.
And the Oscar goes to
Gentillate for Gladiator.
Russell Crowe.
Thanks very much.
Ever since Gladiator first reached audiences on May 1st, 2000, it dominated the year 2000.
And I'll bet you money somewhere in the world tonight that film is playing on primetime television.
It grossed 4.5 times as much as the budget. It won 5 Academy Awards and left Russell with decisive injuries. Yet, there's one man who still felt a little inadequate. More than 3 years after Gladiator's huge success, Ridley sits at home with a nearly pure drink and a large box of cigars. He looks at 2 very specific pieces of paper. One piece of paper shows a completed draft of a Gladiator 2 script. The other shows that the same people who Ridley had worked with on the first Gladiator had signed on. But it still had to take another 1.3 million minutes before Ridley met up with Russell.
And he said, listen, we've got some thoughts about what can we do with Gladiator? I said, well, I think we can bring you back. He'd been working with Nick Cave, so then we talked. Out of it evolved a screenplay.
And involved like the craziest ideas for a Gladiator sequel, in which Maximus returns to life and is sort of cursed to live forever. So Maximus would fight in Crusades, World War II, the Vietnam War, and that he'd be working at the Pentagon in the present day. Man, imagine a Gladiator sequel like that. So now it's 2018, and a lot has happened.
The biggest challenge really was to get a film going.
DreamWorks had financial difficulties and sold the Gladiator rights to Paramount. Nick Cave's script was rejected and scrapped, and most of the crew was simply too busy. Until November 2018, Paramount finally gave permission to start developing a sequel, and so they went to work.
6, 2, 3, 4.
We'll start on time,
right,
and we'll finish on time.
Watching Paul get beat up
It was a lot of fun.
Remember why you're here! Gladiator 2! We're making history!
So I'm fully shooting the thing on paper before I get anywhere near the set.
I've not been on anything like Gladiator 2.
This is the biggest film I've been on.
As you just saw in some of the footage, the actors didn't have an easy time. From Paul Mescal's perspective, this was his nutrition in order to gain 18 pounds. Once finished, he did his physical training. And by physical training, I mean fighting choreography, horse training and sword training. Oh, and another fun fact, whilst the budget ballooned to $310 million, Gladiator 2 did receive a record rebate of about $47 million from the government of Malta.
Strength and honor!
When you look back on both movies, you can conclude that it was tough to make these pictures look as accurate as possible, with injuries being a frequent occurrence. A great physical achievement, crew members waking up not knowing what's gonna happen, and even a horrible passing during shooting. On the other hand, you could also say, that's what they need. You're making a movie about the Roman Empire. That was not an easy time to live in.
They killed people in the arena for fun.
This huge empire stretched from Portugal to parts of modern Iran, a time filled with conquests and slavery, battles, wars. You can say you had to be tough to be something. Just to remind you, all production began with a simple 25-year-old riding on his motorcycle.